Hi, and welcome to another live stream gaming video type thing. And today's topic of video is, well, I'm talking about the Microsoft Xbox Series X. And what does the X mean? X, well, it can mean a number of things. 10 generally, or it can mean it's just a powerful device. But let's have a look at what it could mean. So, Xbox Series X. Whenever you say that, it makes it sound like it's, well, 10, I suppose, so the 10th console. But if we look at the history of the Xbox, even as, well, there's, hey, notification. There's three, is there three? No, there's four gens of Xbox. You've got the original Xbox, the 360, the One, and then you've got the series, shall we say. So that's four gens of Xbox. If we break that down, we only come up with 8 Xboxes. So you've got the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, the Xbox 360S, and the Xbox 360E. If we then move to the Xbox One, you've got the One, the One S, and the One X. That makes 7. Add in the Series X, and that makes 8. So it's not the 10th edition of an Xbox, so that's not that. I can't remember what else. 10, 10, 10. Well, there isn't. There doesn't seem to be any kind of rhyme or reason as to why it is called the Series X. I mean, obviously the X in Xbox stands for, well, originally it was the Microsoft Direct Xbox because it uses the DirectX API from Windows as a revamped on the original Xbox, so that's where the X comes from. But that's the X in Xbox. That's not the X in the Series X. And well, just take the name for a start. It's a Series X. So you've got 360, One, and Series. Ignore the original Xbox because that's just one console. So they do bring out a little range of Xboxes in each range. So the 360, there was 3 different versions or revisions, whatever you want to call them. With the Xbox One, you had the 3 of them, including the more powerful X. With the series of Xboxes, you've got, at the minute, you've got the Xbox Series X, which is the high-end one. You've got the Series S, which is the cut-down version. Then we've got rumours, almost confirmed rumours, of a white digital-only Xbox Series X coming out. But that still doesn't explain where the X comes from. So, I don't really know. Any suggestions? I'm sitting here looking at my son. He's an Xbox fan. He's the one that came up with this, or maybe it's for 10, whatever, this, that, the other. But as far as I've looked and as far as I've researched, I cannot find any fathomable reason why it's called a Series X, other than it's just Microsoft with their stupid naming schemes. So let's just look at the naming schemes for the Xbox. Original Xbox is called the Xbox. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Then when we moved to the next one, it was the 360. Never really understood why it was called a 360. And then they confused things even more by bringing out the Xbox One, which, oh, do you have an Xbox One? Well, that made it really confusing if you had an original Xbox. And I recently found out that the Xbox One was called that because it was supposed to be an all-in-one gaming and media kind of machine. So they were trying to build it into more than just a games device. So that's why it's called an Xbox One. But it still made no sense. And then you had the odd little bits that break off of that, the One, the One S, the One X. At least with the Xbox Series, I think I can see where they're going with it, because it's a range of consoles, and they all do seem to be a little bit different. With the 360, they were just revisions. It was a 360, a smaller version, a cut down version. There we go. With the one, you had the original one, then you had the 1S, which was a slim, small. I think the S stands for, and then you had the X, which was just this like pro version. With the series, I think they're trying to cover all bases. So you've got the Series X, which is the big beefy Bertha. Then you've got the cut down version, which is digital Series S. They're now stretching it a little bit by bringing out supposedly about May time, I think it is. The well, I don't even know what they're going to call it. Are they going to call it the Xbox Series X Digital, or are they going to call it the Xbox Series something else? It would make more sense for them to call it the Xbox Series M, just so it would tie in with this whole, this is a series of Xboxes. Otherwise, they're just going to go down this whole, like they did with the 360, where they just revise it and don't really give it a new name. But I'm getting slightly off topic here. Xbox Series X, what does the X stand for? It's not the 10th console in the Xbox line. It's a 9th gen console, so that pushes that one out of the window. Or ironically, once they jump into 10th gen consoles, they're probably going to call it something else altogether. They don't have a fantastic naming scheme, does Microsoft. At least with Sony, you can just go, well, I've got a PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know you get bits in the middle where they revise them, but it's like PS3 Slim or PS4 Pro. Their naming scheme is very consistent. And I did read that they didn't call the Xbox, well, they called the Xbox One, and then they moved to the Series because it would have put them behind, because then the next one would have been the Xbox 2, but then people would have compared that, because that would have been Xbox 2, it would have been PS4 era, and nobody wants to buy an Xbox 2 when PS4, the numbering scheme would have put it slightly out of sync, and people would have favoured PlayStation because it's got a 4 in it rather than a 2 in it. I'm rambling. But what about Series X? Can anyone chip in with a comment and say why it was called a Series X? The Series bit, I get. The X bit, I think the X in this particular sort of naming scheme was just there because X is a strong, I was going to say number then, X is a strong letter. It denotes power. The S, well, S stands for shit. The Series S is a decent system. I haven't had much experience with it. A friend of mine has got one. From what I've seen, it plays pretty decently. It isn't vastly different to this X. It's got the same CPU. It's got a slightly different GPU and less RAM, and it can only push out at 1440, I think. So it's an HD console, but it's not 4K. Although, I don't really know. But the Series S is a decent console, but the X is the big of everything. Hey, I've just got a comment popped up, and it says X also means everything, kind of like the X app. Oh shit, I've lost the comment now. Where? Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Here it is. It's supposed to be the everything app eventually. Oh, well, that made no sense. X also means everything. Yeah. I'm still going, but well, thank you for the comment. I don't know who that is. That is Unspoken X True 1HX. Anyway, thanks for listening anyway, and thanks for the comment. But I think the term X in the Series X is just there to denote that it's huge and powerful. That is it. There's no other rhyme or reason. Like I say, it's not. It's an 8th edition of the Xbox. It's in the 9th gen category of consoles, and X from Xbox is the DirectX API originally. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that it carries on. All these Xboxes are sort of backward compatible, so I'm sure, and they share the same sort of architecture. But if anyone can actually come up with a fathomable reason or a solid reason why they use the term X for the Series X, then let me know. But with Microsoft, well, they just seem to pick a name and scheme at random. So why was it called 360? I know why it was called the One. That's a bit loose, but that's at least there's some reason behind it. And I get the series, because if they're going to bring out a number of different Xboxes, it kind of ties them all together. But X, what's the X for? I think it just means powerful. It just means X is big and bold and brash. So yeah, really was not much point of this video. Most videos that I put out, I like to be informative, but this one is asking more of a question. Ooh, let's have a look. Oh, okay, X. I'm getting some comments coming. Hey, so yeah, it really doesn't make any sense. I think just with Microsoft, they just like to throw names at it without any kind of scheme. I mean, if we go back, way back, to other consoles, Sony really are the only console that uses a consistent number and scheme. Everyone else just uses random names. If we look at the Sega consoles, they just picked a name: Master System, Mega Drive, Saturn, Dreamcast. Yeah, none of that really tied together. The same with the Nintendo. They went Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Then they changed the whole name and scheme to N64, Cube, Wii U, Switch. So they're just picking names. Maybe that is where Microsoft go with it. They just fancy picking a name and rolling with it. I'm being looked at.
Well, the Switch makes sense.
It does, but it's not consistent with...
It doesn't need to be consistent if they're making the name make sense, unlike the Xbox name. The Switch is named the Switch because you can switch between the handheld and the home console, which would make sense.
Nintendo do have a vague kind of naming scheme.
They sort of have a meaning behind it.
They have a meaning behind. The Wii was meant for... well, originally it was called the Revolution, but the Wii... It is because it's a family. Yeah, the Wii U was, they then took that back, and it was meant to be a more personal console. That's why it was called Wii U. The GameCube, well, that's obviously because it's a little square lunchbox type thing. N64, well, it was the first 64-bit console, so they went down there. Yeah, I get that, but okay. So if you're looking at the Sega, all of their consoles, sort of in-house names referred to planets. So apart from the Saturn, which actually stuck with its in-house name, everything else is in-house. I think the Mega Drive was called the Mars, and then you got the Saturn, and so they have some kind of consistency. Nintendo go like name, but they give it a name, and there's a reason for it. Sony go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which it works. And then Microsoft come out with this absolute bungled version of name and scheme. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to Xbox owners. What does the 360 mean? I don't know. The One, well, that was called the One apparently because it makes it an all-in-one device. Yeah, okay. And then you've got the Series, and I'm gonna keep referring to it as the Series rather than the X or the Series X, because if you use the term Series, well, it means there's a bunch of consoles, and if rumours are right and we get this new Xbox white Series X white digital thing, I don't know what's happened to the round trash can idea that was marketed for the end of this year, but that seems to have fallen apart. So yeah, I'm rambling a little bit of history, a little gaming history there, but Series X, what does the X mean? Absolutely nothing. I don't think it has really any kind of correlation. It's just because they want a series of consoles, and X denotes that it's big and powerful, and then you've got the S, and then whatever they decide to name the new console, I hope they go with a different name. I hope they don't call it an Xbox Series X Digital, because that just defeats the whole
Series.
kind of thing. They need to give it an M or a P or something, or a W for some reason. Why would it be W?
So it's like,
Xbox Series W. But then that would confuse things with games, because you buy a game at the minute and it says compatible with Xbox Series X.
/S.
Sometimes they say yes, they don't all. Sometimes they also say with the Xbox One, game cases for the Xbox has got so confusing. Some are X only, some are, and even if it says it's compatible with the X only, it isn't. It's compatible with the S as well. So anyway, this is a confusion and what Microsoft like to do. Who knows? And we were talking a few weeks ago about the next gen of console from Microsoft, which is supposedly going to be called the Xbox Series X2. Which, if it's a leap in generation, if it makes it a 10th generation in the same place as the Switch 2 and the PS6, then they shouldn't be calling it the series at all. It should be a whole brand new naming scheme. But that's it. This video, it's more of a look at how crap Microsoft are at naming consoles and giving it some kind of consistency. Like you say, you always get sort of mid-console jumps or revisions, and they do stick with that. You get the S, you've got the Xbox 360 S, you've got the Xbox One S.
And X.
The X was a Pro.
Yeah, that's the point. The X is the more powerful system, and the S is the less powerful system.
Yeah, but in that gen, the Xbox One S, or the Xbox One, was their main console.
Yeah, and this one is the X, so they're saying their main console this time is the more powerful console.
But how many people do you know went and bought an Xbox One X?
I don't know anyone who went out and bought an Xbox One X.
The Xbox Series X came out before the S. The Series X was released before the Series S. So they brought that out as their main console. But the Xbox One was brought out way before the One X.
And the X.
And yes, the X is their more powerful console. But in that gen, their focus was just on the One. So, yeah, okay, X might be their more powerful. I said that earlier in the video, that it could just be that it's a big beefy number. It might letter. X denotes power. But have they then thrown everything in the ring at once? That's what they're going to do now. They can't. If they make a revision, it's got to be called an X. Otherwise, it's going to confuse the shit out of normal people.
Or Series something.
Or Series something. But if they call it a Series something, then it's going to kind of make it sound like it's not as powerful as the X. Yeah, it's just going to be a repackaged X anyway. Hey, there we go. So I got a bit of a chip in from my Xbox son.
Not really your Xbox son anymore, am I?
Well, you followed Xbox all the way through.
I had a One.
You had a 360.
And now I've got an X.
And you had a 1S.
Yeah, the 1S was better than the original one.
Yeah.
One. Yeah, but the one had a tendency to overheat.
The first revisions of consoles always have a bit of issues. So, yeah, bit of a ramble. Kind of come to a bit of a conclusion that the X just means it's their
powerful console.
Yeah, even if it's that bugs me. That little bit we just had bugs me. Where you've got the One, their main focus, and the X. Yay! But nothing really took advantage of the Xbox One X. It was just 4K capable and HDR, I think. But then
before I even bought my X, we had a look at how games played differently on them.
Yeah.
And you could tell that it was playing better on the X.
Compared to what?
Compared to the One.
Oh yeah, that's different. That's a generation leap.
Yeah, but
That's 7 to 8 gen.
there was still a dramatic difference.
No, it's not. It's not. It's 8th to 9th gen.
Yeah. And with the S, we saw it couldn't handle certain games.
There's definitely
overload the S. I've never overloaded my X.
That is a small side point, which I will do a video on at some point. I have a friend with a Series S, We've noticed a few slowdowns.
So do I, and his is also is not as capable as mine was when we were playing just Xbox.
It'd be handy to run a comparison, run the same game, and see. So the S in this instance, well, and I suppose in the other end, but they've shifted focus. I think the Series X is the big main console. It was released before the S. They then brought out a cut down version for people on a budget.
Which is fair enough.
But with the One, they spun that the other way around. They released the One, it was their main focus, and then you had this like PS4 Pro style, which was the One X, which nobody ever bought. I don't know anyone that has bought one. I've seen a few in the wild, but that's about it. It's one of those. Do you know anyone with a PS4 Pro? You do.
I have one.
But you didn't buy one because it
was better. I bought it because it was actually cheaper than the original one.
Yeah. But let's not go down the whole pro route console. That might be a subject for another day. So back on topic, and this video's got way out of hand. Xbox Series X. The X stands for, we don't know.
Power.
Power. There you go. X. That's what it is. Well, if anyone knows any different, then just drop a comment. But it's an interesting topic. But as Microsoft, they just have a law unto themselves with the naming schemes. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the future and see if we can actually tally that up with the X being the most powerful console out of the series. Yeah, I'm done. Bye. Link, like, subscribe, enjoy. Bye.